Hey gang, welcome to the first installment of a couple of demonstration videos I'm going to split up. We're going to be painting some wet on wet paint here as well as wet on dry, and I'm going to take it in stages. I'm just going to do a simple landscape, maybe with a building, I'm not sure, to give you a feel for what this paint can do, how it can be handled. And so at first I'm going to start with the bigger brushes like these two, and I'm going to leave the thinner brushes for later on for detail. These brushes are pretty wide. This is about a 1 inch in diameter when you spread it out, and this one just covers a lot of ground when you spread it out as well, you know, especially on a paper this size. These are pretty appropriate. And what I'm going to do is create a glaze wash of the ground here, and then I'm going to use the sky here, probably with one tree nearby, another tree in the distance, to give you a sense of a little bit of depth. And that's pretty much it. So if I were to draw it out real quick, I might do just a, maybe here's going to be where my first tree is located. I'm going to say it's going to go off the page even. The horizon's going to be about right there. Next tree is going to be off in the distance about here. Tree top is going to go behind, so I've got part of the tree coming in front of this one. And I might do maybe if this is my horizon, I actually want to do some hillside stuff like that. And I suppose I'll leave it at that and just keep it simple. And if I'm thinking ahead enough, I might decide to put maybe a sunrise here where the area close to the horizon is going to be brighter, and then it's going to grow darker toward the top. And that's what I'm interested in, is value, dark to bright, or something like that. So the first thing I do is decide on my palette what I want to begin with, and I think the largest area should probably be cool in temperature. And since I'm doing the ground, then I know, well, the ground is mainly going to be green as my base color. So I'm going to start with one of the two colors that I would use to make green. And what I'm doing here is I'm just getting water and loosening the paint that's in the palette, which is hard until you add water. And then I'm going to kind of put that here. Get a little water and add to that to thin it out a little bit, and a little bit more. What I like about these big brushes too is that they carry a lot of water. So I've got my first color there. Get a little more color, I suppose, and see how much blue I have. And in the background here, I'm going to go ahead and paint over the tree that's in the front, or in the midground, but I'm not going to paint over this tree. I'm going to paint around this one. So think about why I might have painted over that first tree. And what I'm trying to do is paint the entire area while it's still wet. I want to go in and move the paint around and be sure that I've got a nice, even looking side to side covered area. Go ahead and bring that down. Now, I'm not getting paint this time, I'm just getting a little water. I'm going to thin this area out. Now, you're thinking, well, why did you do that blue? Because it kind of looks like an ocean right now. Well, later on, I'll be adding yellow, orange, maybe even a little red. Up at the top, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add kind of a more intense blue up here. I'm going straight from the palette now to add some darkness to that. If you end up getting bristles from the brush in your painting, it's not a big deal. You can just let it dry and then pick them off later. Now, what I'm doing is going back to the water, and I'm going to treat this edge just with water and soften that. And I'm going to drag it down. And if I do that, it starts to look like it's kind of about to rain. or something like that. The reason I'm dragging that downward is because I want the top to be darker than where the sky meets the horizon. And I'm not looking for exact placement of my color just yet, but it gives me a general idea. Now I know where that tree is. I'm going to start with the blue base on everything pretty much, except for the tree trunk. And let's say I'm going to pretend my light source is coming from this side going this way, so the highlights on my tree are going to be here. So I'm going to put a blue shadow for a cool shadow on this side of the tree mass up here, and same thing here. Shadow on that side of the tree. Doing a lot of blue. A lot of blue. Okay. I'm going to take and I've cleaned my brush now because I'm about to change colors, and just take out some of the water, bring it to a point that I can deal with. And now I'm going to go ahead and use the yellow after I've cleaned my brush, gotten it dry. I'm going to loosen some of the yellow up, bring it into play. I'm starting with very simple and pure colors here. Now, I mean the primaries. I've got blue and yellow, and I've got an idea of where things are going to be. So I put yellow on my palette in case I want to just grab that, and it's already mixed with water, like so. For the highlight side of my tree, I'm going to go ahead and put some yellow highlights, and I'm being very random, and I'm just kind of moving it around, trying to keep my marks very organic looking. Like so. I'm going to come down here with the yellow. I'm going to start to make some of the green, and I'm going side to side with my brush stroke for now, but later on I will be changing that, and some of my brush strokes will end up being different angles up and down to imitate the grass, etc. Now with the yellow on the grass here, I'm only going to go about halfway up on the painting. Now think about why that is. In the notes you're going to learn that yellow is a warm color, blue is cool, and warm colors tend to look closer to you, cool colors tend to push things back. So keeping that in mind, what I'm doing is strategically I'm putting my warmest colors up front, my coolest colors in the background. Now I do have this, but later I'm going to make that into a darker green, and part of the reason for that yellow highlight being there is because the sun is hitting that just like it's hitting the sides of the trees. So I'm going to tone this down while I warm this up, basically, is what my plan is. Now I'm thinking for the time being, make a little, well, I think I'm going to clean the brush and use some of the water to loosen some of this up and take some of that blue and make it even a little bit brighter. So basically I'm taking some of the blue out of that part of the picture and brightening the sky. Later on I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to add orange and pink and stuff like that to that area of the sky. What I am going to do now is tone down with a pretty dark blue. I'm going to set the big brush down for a moment and grab a smaller brush for a little more control in the mountain area. I'm going to take this smaller brush, it's about 1/4 inch wide, to the blue. I'm going to loosen some of that up with water. I'm going to get a pretty intense blue, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go ahead and push that back. And that's about as dark as I want to get with that. And again, sunlight hitting the hillside and the blue mixing with that yellow gives me just enough of a highlight, like so. And I want to go ahead and put in a shadow, a long shadow where that tree trunk begins, there. And I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm going to have this shadow, pretty intense blue here, very soft edge, because of the wet paint on top of wet paint. It's going to carry off. Let me move the camera angle so you can see that. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and paint in the shadow side of the tree trunk. Now these are areas that I'm painting on because I want to let the rest of this area dry. So I've got, and I'm being very organic with my brush stroke. I'm not being mechanical. I'm letting it move, letting the line move and be wobbly instead of, you know, like I'd drawn it with a ruler or something. And what I can do now is take this very dark mark making with the paintbrush, smaller brush, into the tree, and I'm going to think about the tree like it's a series of leaf clumps. Like here's a big clump of leaves, so I'm going to shadow that side of it. Another clump right there. I'm not being totally random. It does feel like it in a way, but I'm not being totally random. I'm thinking about where light might be hitting a particular clump of leaves, and I'm shadowing the left side of that. You know? So you might start to see there's a tree coming closer to me because of the intensity of those darks, which is good. That's what we want. Later on I might be able to put a wash or something over this to bring some unity to it, but for now what we have is just the underpainting, just a good start. Warm up close, cool in the distance, and I'm going to go ahead and make this where that tree trunk can be a little bit more visible, and add some more intense blue. Now, I don't want to overwork this section, so I think for now this is a good stopping point. I'm going to stop, let it dry, come back to it for the second segment. We'll see you.